Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm here today with Amy and Kenner Fee, Donna Baldwin, and Jim McLean to discuss the continued difficulties with accommodations for those with disabilities who require the use of accredited service dogs, and legislation I will be bringing forward to address those ongoing concerns. And while it was with specific concerns faced by families in my region of Waterloo in attaining these accommodations for their children with autism on school grounds that brought my attention to the issue, we know there are many who have proven the need for a service dog, those who have applied for and been approved for service and are then yet denied accommodations in our public places. Donna and Amy will tell you about the hurdles they face in having their child's service dog allowed access at school, while Jim will speak about the access difficulties he's faced as a veteran with PTSD who requires the use of a service dog. They and many like them are stuck in the unacceptable position of being approved for the benefits of a certified service dog and then being denied those same benefits in a public place. And while the AODA points to accommodations for service dogs for the disabled, the fact is, as Amy, Donna, and Jim will attest, there are many public institutions, including schools, that are often failing to provide those very accommodations. That's why I'm announcing that I will be introducing a bill to provide those with disabilities requiring service dogs the important accommodations mandated by the Blind Persons Right Act, while also requiring recognized training certification, called the Ontario Service Dogs Act. My bill would make it an offense with a $5,000 penalty to deny accommodations to disabled persons with a service dog in a school or any place to which the public is customarily admitted, and ask the Attorney General to issue identification cards to owners of designated service dogs. False representation, false certifications would also be an offense with a $500 fine. Look, families of children with autism shouldn't have to face further hardship to get service dog accommodations for their kids in school. Veteran PTSD sufferers shouldn't have to face further hardship to have their service dog accepted in public places. It is my hope that the Ontario Service Dog Act will help people with disabilities clear these hurdles and continue to receive the service of service dogs wherever and whenever they require them. I want to especially acknowledge my colleague Catherine Fife from Kitchener-Waterloo, who's worked also on this issue with Jim, has a petition in the House. And this act is also builds upon the success of the act that was recently introduced and became law in the province of British Columbia. And so with that, I also failed to mention or introduce the dogs that are with us as well, the service dogs. We've got Elvis, we've got Jensen, and Ivy, who you probably can't see under the table, so we welcome them as well. I'll turn it over to Amy.
My 8-year-old son has had his autism assistance dog for 2 years. When she first came home, school staff were very excited that she would soon be attending class with him, but the principal quickly informed us that she would not be allowed. We didn't press further until my son was finishing his IBI program last fall and increasing his hours at school. What followed was a frustrating 4-month-long process and then a new Waterloo Catholic policy on service dogs that outlined everything they had put us through. After multiple meetings and apparent data collection on his behavior, the superintendent of special education and the director of education said he did not need his service dog, and even told us he doesn't meet the qualifications for an educational assistant. All this even though several doctors had told them it was a medical necessity for my son to have his dog at school. This has been extremely difficult for my son. He's constantly crying, asking why his dog can't go to school. At school, he's needing increased support from his EA. He's crying, melting down in front of his peers, and even hitting. He feels his friends are afraid of him because he doesn't have as much control over his emotions when he doesn't have his service dog with him. Just a few weeks ago, one of his therapists asked him what he does at school when he becomes frustrated. He said, "I cuddle with Ivy." Ivy is that service dog that is not allowed at school with him. When the therapist clarified she was asking about what happens at school, he said, No, I put my head on my desk and I cry." She asked him how often, and he said, every day. This is Kenner and my son. Do you want to tell them how you feel without Ivy?
I feel sad, distracted, uncomfortable, and I miss Ivy.
Thanks, guys. Jim, I'll ask you to speak next.
Hi, I'm a NATO veteran, 13 years. I've been to Cyprus, Golan Heights, and the Bosnian War in '96. And I recently just got developed with PTSD and major depression, anxiety. I got Elvis 3 years ago, and I had trouble at the courthouse several times, even though I told them to phone National Service Dogs to verify the dog was legit. And I was getting to the point where it became, and I had to file a human rights complaint to resolve my issue. So now they don't bother me with that because they learn that he is a service dog, and people have to be aware that there's going to be more PTSD dogs out there, and not question them why we have the dog. Just respect that he's there for a reason. And I totally agree with the bill that Mr. Harris is trying to put into place, because there is a lot of people out there that deny you with service dogs because they don't believe that you have a mental illness or a disability because just the way you look. And I find that very insulting, especially as, you know, a person with autism that can't get an education because they can't bring their dog to school. That's just, I don't agree with that. So I hope that we can get this rectified so that we can walk our dogs without being harassed or questioned about why we have a service dog. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Donna?
This is Jensen, and he's our son's AAD dog. When our son was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, we were told that a large part of his success would be based on how much we, as parents, would advocate for him. With this in mind, we pledged that we would do everything possible to help utilize every avenue to help him to succeed. We've done countless OT, social skills therapy, IBI, private tutoring, assessments, and the list goes on and on. We were advised that there were autism service dogs, and with our son's needs, it was felt that it would benefit him. We applied to the Lions Foundation, and after more than 2-year wait, he received his dog in February. The addition of this dog has had a profound positive influence. His dog helps him with keeping his anxiety at check. It helps him with focus. It provides a calm in stressful situations. We can take his dog everywhere, and we have. This includes church, hockey games, malls, restaurants, hospital visits, and even public schools. Everywhere we've taken Jensen, he's been welcomed. However, the one place where he may need his dog the most, we have yet to have access. Jensen is not allowed at his school. Jack, our son, attends a school in the Waterloo Catholic District region, and I was advised after the first day that Jack's service dog was not allowed on school property. That was February the 4th. We are now at June 6th, and we're still working diligently to simply enjoy the privileges of public access at my son's school. Currently, the accommodation offered is to go to the front door, which is not a student access door, but simply a laneway for mail and deliveries, etc. I started last week to go at lunch and have my son brought outside the front door to sit with him and his dog, to spend 5 to 10 minutes with him before his afternoon starts, to help him through the afternoon. In my opinion, this is discrimination. It's not public access, and it's not an accommodation. I'm looking forward to new legislation that is being put forward to address this issue, to bring equality to all people who have an accredited registered service dog that would mirror the Blind Rights Act. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to a positive response.
Thank you. We're happy to take questions.
I'd rather talk to you guys after.
Yep,
where it's
okay.
not so formal.
Yeah, just a couple specifics to the act as well. We talked about the identification cards that Jim had issues with. They would be issued by the Attorney General, something similar to your license or health card, an official card.
The same as people who are visually impaired have. They have a card that IDs them as visually impaired and that they're legally entitled to access.
Yeah, and Jim will show you offline afterwards the card he was initially granted. It was something that, you know, some would have printed off a home photocopier, and he's got now a more official one, as Amy has from the Lions Service Dogs folks, but something consistent across the board that would be recognizable in all public facilities. As well, the intimidation dogs, folks may label their dog as a service animal to have access to a condominium or what have you, and you know what, there'd be a fine and penalty for those that don't come from an accredited school, and so we think that that's also important within the Act. So thank you for your time, and of course we'll see where this goes. And thank you again, folks, for making your way from the region down today and bringing your service animals. Thanks, Kenner.
Thank you for doing
You're
this.
welcome.
All right.